Doug, tell the people why we should be eating sprouts every day.
So you need to eat, right? And if you're going to eat, you want to have the highest quality nutrition on a per calorie basis.
Okay.
So normally when things are low cost, they're low quality. Sprouts are one of the only things that I can think of that is the highest quality nutrition at the lowest possible cost. So you can take a quarter cup of seeds and grow a full jar, 5 cups of sprouts in 5 days without soil, sunshine, or fertilizer. So number one, it's fresh. You are getting fresh produce. Whereas in the U.S., I'm not sure about the U.K., in the U.S., the average produce is traveling 2,500 kilometers, 2,000 miles across the country over a 10-day period. So without quoting any stats, that produce is not as fresh as being able to harvest directly from the jar.
Yeah.
The second thing is sprouts contain the meristematic stem cells of the plants. So it's concentrated phytonutrients, micronutrients in the plant. So they're up to 100 times more nutrient dense than mature vegetables. The average vegetable you buy in the market is far less nutritious than eating the sprouts. And then it costs. Economically, you can grow sprouts pretty much anywhere around the world for under $1 or under a quid a serving. So it's really like phenomenal that sprouts become the potential for food equality, food justice.
Yeah.
And, we live in a bubble, right? We won the ovarian lottery. We're able to watch a podcast. We can hang out in LA. There's serious issues, not to go off in that direction, but 25,000 people a day, every day, day after day, are dying of starvation. Like food insecurity is a big issue. Billions of people don't know where they're getting their proper nutrition, and there's consequences every day.
Yeah.
So that's on one end. Then on the other extreme, there's over 100,000 people a day that are dying of chronic illness from what they eat because they're eating empty calories and they're overeating the empty calories. And as a result, they're getting cancer, heart disease, strokes, diabetes, and they're plagued and they're encumbered with this. And it's not because they're bad people, right? The obesity dilemma where 2 out of 3 Americans are overweight or obese, I don't blame the people. It's the system is designed to get people addictive.
Yeah.
So what I could say is I've been sprouting for over 30 years.
30 years?
30 years.
Oh, wow.
50% of my diet is sprouts today, but it's been up to 100%. I've done 30 days of just sprouts. And surprisingly, I'm getting every micronutrient, macronutrient, polyphenol, bioflavonoid, antioxidants, and every amino acid to form complete proteins from sprouts. So the more I was eating the sprouts, the more the sprouts were revealing to me like the positive benefits of the soluble and insoluble fiber, the gut microbiodiversity. And sprouts are one of the only foods that are alive. So when you're eating quote unquote whole foods, like you're eating a fraction of the food, part of the broccoli, part of the cauliflower, the apples, part of the apple tree. When you're eating a sprout, you're eating the entire living organism, the root, the shoot, the endosperm, the embryo, the entire living organism that's actually consuming CO2, respiring, and it's alive. So when you're something that's water-based, it's just like this gift. And like I didn't discover sprouting, but I think I rediscovered it and decided that this message needs to be out to the world.
Yeah. Dude, I love the passion for this. And I think, if someone's listening to this and they're not galvanized by you talking about sprouts, nothing is going to get them intrigued by it. And I just want to summarize the key points you've just made here. So fresh, I think the idea of this being as fresh as possible is perhaps lost on folks because they don't realize that the salad leaf, the spinach, the green leafy vegetable, whatever it might be, the tomato that is sitting so pristinely in a supermarket or a grocery store has actually traveled, just like you said, on average 2,500 miles in the US. But I imagine it's going to be very similar for us in the UK because we get a lot of our produce from Europe and all over the EU. That process and the conditions of transport actually lead to nutrient degradation.
Yes.
That isn't to say that you're not getting anything from those ingredients, but it's not as good as if you've just picked it from the farm or wherever it's grown and then consumed it in that moment. There's always going to be nutrient degradation over that point. And what you're saying is that because and just for the listener, we've got a massive jar of sprouts sat in front of Doug right now that look absolutely delicious. These are ready to be harvested, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
and these are literally just, they've been growing for like 5 days.
Correct.
And so this is the living organism that you so eloquently just described, that you're consuming in its entirety. So you're consuming absolutely everything in the freshest possible state where there's literally no nutrient degradation. You're consuming absolutely everything.
Yeah. And when you're growing in glass and stainless steel and you're taking an organic seed, there's no microplastic involved.
Yeah.
So this is fresh. This is clean. You know the provenance of where it's coming from.
Yeah.
And you can choose. So what happened is sprouts in the US, UK, Europe, there was no money in sprouts because sprouts actually can't make the 2,000-mile journey, right? So there are no national or international sprouting companies. So sprouts are a local, regional business at best. And so my idea, when I moved to the desert, I moved to Wonder Valley Hot Springs 7 years ago. Not only was it an environmental desert, it was a food desert. And I wasn't going to compromise my standards. So I had very high standards for nutrition. And so when I looked at the options, growing your own food is really difficult. And the yield from growing your own food is relatively low. So during World War II in America, 40% of Americans were growing their own food, but they had gardens, there was soil, they had training, and they had the need. The government was saying, go grow your own victory gardens. And today, less than 1% of food is grown by consumers at home.
Gosh, I had no idea it was as high as 40%.
40% of Americans had victory gardens.
Wow.
And today it's 1%. And so my vision for me was like, wow, sprouts aren't just this garnish or a side dish. Sprouts were vegetables. Sprouts were vitamins and minerals. And then there was this whole other like deep level of research that at the time, 7 years ago, I wasn't familiar with, was the medicinal properties of sprouts and how they can help regulate insulin levels, how they can detoxify benzene and air pollutants from the lungs, how they open up the NRF2 pathway and cross the blood-brain barrier and can create heat shock proteins in the brain that can reduce the symptoms, of autism, and how they have it's well known in the medical community that broccoli and cruciferous vegetables are healthy. But no one knew until about 30 years ago that broccoli sprouts were up to 100 times more concentrated of the glucosinolates that form sulforaphane. So there's this whole work that I didn't know about, but I went down the rabbit hole, and I'm continuing to go because the papers are coming out faster than I can read them.
Yeah. So we've talked about the first point you made about how this is fresh, there's minimal degradation, you're literally growing it yourself, and you should definitely sort of reinvigorate this idea of a victory garden in everyone's kitchen across America, because I think this sort of idea of like growing your own for your health sounds challenging, but as we'll get to it in a minute, the fact that you can do this so easily in 5 days and create something that is essentially a multivitamin is something that will galvanize people to actually get involved. Because I'll be honest, I'm not green fingered in the slightest. I'm
Yeah.
a terrible gardener, but I'm really excited about using this device because I know how easy it is. I know how easy you make it look, but it is genuinely really, really easy to grow your own.
Yeah. Well, look, whether you're a climate activist or climate denier, right? The fact is it takes about 1,500 gallons of water to grow 1 pound of beef, and you can grow 1 pound of sprouts with 1 gallon of water. So it's not 1%. It's less than 1/10 of 1% of the resources to grow the sprouts.
Yeah.
So you're getting something fresher, you're getting something better for the environment, and you're getting something that's so nutrient powerhouse. And everything that I'm saying, like to me, it's like a mic drop and it's overwhelming. So I love the way that you're breaking it down. And, but the economic part of it, the fact that there was no money behind this really prevented the growth of this. Because if you go into a large health food store here in America, Whole Foods, right? 24,500 of the items that they sell are in a box, in a bag, in a jar, in a can, in a container that have been processed, right? And they have about 500 produce items on the shelf, and half the produce items aren't organic, and they're coated with waxes and parabens or now appeal and other things. So you don't even know what you're consuming. And so sprouts are safe, fresh, nutritious, and affordable.
Yeah.
So this is something where I felt like it was a cause worthy enough for me to apply my energy.
Absolutely, man. And you're definitely applying the energy. Let's talk about that second point about how these are concentrated sources of some of these micronutrients. And the comparison I make with these is kind of like herbs and spices. Because whenever I look at the antioxidant or the OREX scores of herbs and spices, they're just off the chart for the per weight amount of these different chemicals compared to vegetables and dark green leafy vegetables that we know are really, really healthy for us, but are just incomparable when it comes to a gram by gram basis. So let's talk about why sprouts are just so concentrated in some of these chemicals that you've alluded to, like the sulforaphanes, the glucosinolates, particularly in broccoli sprouts.
So what happens is the seed itself is a complete living organism in a dormant state. And within the endosperm of the seed, it contains precise and finite amounts of these compounds and phytochemicals, and there's more than 1 million phytochemicals, but in particular the isothiocyanates, the glucosinolate, glucoraphanin. So broccoli has glucoraphanin, radish has glucoraphanine. The research on glucoraphanine is just starting.
Yeah.
But if we stick on the glucoraphanin, which is the precursor to sulforaphane, there's a finite amount, and approximately 3 to 13% by volume in the seed is glucoraphanin. As it grows, there's no more glucoraphanin happening. Like there just is no more. So the challenge is people aren't familiar with eating broccoli seeds. They're like, small, like a poppy seed. They don't have the flavor. They get stuck in your teeth. And they have enzyme inhibitors. They've got lectins. They've got phytic acids. But when you soak them, germinate them, and sprout them, on day 3, you've initiated a metamorphosis from a seed into a vegetable. And at that point, because it's still very small, the sprout is still very small, it has that full 3 to 13% glucoraphanin. As it grows into that whole head of broccoli, there's no more glucoraphanin happening. You'll get more vitamin C, you'll get more fiber, you'll get other micronutrients being developed, but you by and large, if you look at alfalfa sprouts versus alfalfa hay that they feed the cow, it's predominantly roughage at that point. It's insoluble fiber.
Yeah.
And so the smaller it is, and that's where I also mentioned the sprouts contain the meristematic stem cells of the plants. So there's two times when the stem cells are available in the plants. One is at the sprouting stage, and the second when the plant grows to maturity and it flowers. In the budding stage is all of a sudden this fabulous stage. So plant buds, incredibly. Eating flowers, fantastic, right? But flowers also have a short shelf life.
Yeah.
Not a big and you don't get a
Not a
lot of
big
flowers
market.
on the plant, edible.
Yeah.
So if you are in a place where there's edible wild flowers, eat them.
Yeah.
Like eat the flowers. I mean, look at the color, the radiance. Like there's brilliance in them.
Actually, I had I think yesterday I was out for dinner with some friends in LA, and we had some garlic flowers. I don't know if
Yes.
you had the garlic flowers, but they're like slightly like a hue of lavender, like light purple, and they have such intense flavor. Not like a bitterness that you have from like a raw garlic clove, but like more of a floral nature, like an essence of garlic. And it is absolutely delicious. And now I know that I'm consuming like something even more nutrient
Yeah.
dense.
Most flowers are edible,
Uh-huh.
and they're extremely like nutritious on a level. Like talk about microbiome diversity. You know, eat your flowers with your
Yeah.
probiotics, with your sprouts. Like you're just set.
Yeah.
And like that's the game that I want to play.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I raise the standards of what I'm willing to consume in a non-exclusive way? Like that's the most like heartwarming openness, is that the sprouts are available to everybody.
Yeah.
Like anyone can sprout.
And this is what's so beautiful about the message as well, because as it, pertains to your third point about cost and access and food deserts, I think are a huge problem within the US, but it is also a growing problem in the UK as well, despite us being a much smaller country.
Yeah.
And the access, of course, is not just the availability of the products and ingredients themselves, but also the ability to afford them, as everything rises in cost in supermarkets more generally, coupled with inflation. So the fact that these are so cheap, I mean, how much are the broccoli sprouts or the alfalfa sprouts or the...
A bag of seeds,
Uh-huh.
like organic seeds in dollars, starting with like a salad mix or lentils, as little as like $12, $15 a bag.
Okay.
Like-
And how much weight would that give you in terms of the amount that you could
Well-
harvest once
well,
you've sprouted it?
One bag,
Uh-huh.
an 8-ounce bag, will actually have 5.5 scoops of seeds. So
Uh-huh.
5.5 scoops. Each scoop of seed will fill up, sprout into a jar that will have 5 or 6 cups.
Wow.
So you will get, 5 or 6 full jars of this with 5 to 6 servings in it. So 25 to 35 servings
Gosh.
of vegetables
Yeah.
for even the broccoli. It's $25 or $35 for a pound.
Yeah.
It's just totally affordable. And, if you think about, other magic, right? And, your heritage, you've eaten lentils before,
yeah.
right? Lentils, cooked lentils, are a staple of the diets around the world. When you sprout a lentil, you increase the vitamin C by 300%. You quadruple the antioxidants. You convert the fibers and the proteins into being bioavailable and digestible. So, and when you combine like lentil sprouts and broccoli sprouts, you get this complete amino acid profile with volumes that are significant for every single essential amino acid. The amino acids the body can't produce on its own. So when you go down this path with eyes wide open, you can make your decision like, wow, what am I going to eat, right? And so if you were to take sprouts, and I'm glad that you mentioned spices and herbs, you can make the sprouts taste like however you want. Any cuisine, what's Thai, Indian, Mediterranean, what have you, and the sprouts just become a filler. So in my world, right, and I know you're focused on the kitchen, right, the doctor's kitchen, you can replace pasta with sprouts. Take your favorite sauce, pour it over the sprouts, and you will get something that's 1,000 times more nutritious than traditional wheat-based pasta. You can replace rice with sprouts, right? So in your sushi, in your rolls, like in the combined, like just imagine, you from an informed doctor perspective, how much better would it be to have sprouted lentils and sprouted broccoli as opposed to rice and beans. I had a conversation, with the leader, one of the leaders at the World Bank, and part of their main agenda is using golden rice, so a genetically modified rice that's enhanced with beta carotene. And if you go down that rabbit hole, you find out that the enhancement of the beta carotene gets compromised when you cook it. So in the state that they're selling it, it's enhanced, but when you cook it, the beta carotene gets degraded.
Yeah.
And if they have resources to cook rice, which you need water, you could give them seeds that they could sprout, and they literally hundreds of times more nutrition for the level. But the mindset is, oh, just throw a bag of rice.
Yeah.
So when we think about, why do this? It's like we now have Chef Neil Hardin from ABC Kitchen, ABCV in New York City, which is a fabulous plant-based restaurant. He's creating sprout-based recipes, a broccoli avocado toast. So you're taking something that's popular and familiar, and you're adding something that's nutritious. So I see a world where all of a sudden sprouts shift from being a garnish and a side dish to being the center of the plate. Just imagine having a sprout salad. So instead of having old greens, you're having sprouts as the salad. It's just game changing.
Yeah, I remember when I first got into this nutrition game, I started going to the health food store and finding some of these sprouts. So there is, I think, one, if not two, UK suppliers of sprouts just for the entire country. And wherever you go, it's the same manufacturer. And they do a great job. They do sunflower, they do lentil, they do chickpea, they do broccoli and alfalfa, etc. The demand is somewhat, low, I would say, and it's very specialized to people who actually recognize just how incredible the nutrition is per pound or quid spent on their fresh fruits and vegetables for the week. But the fact that you can actually make this at home is super empowering, and I think it would galvanize a lot of people to actually start consuming more of these. I just want to dive into some of the studies looking at the micronutrient availability of these. So in terms of where you get your information from in the US, who's really leading the charge here in terms of investigating glucoraphanin versus glucoraphanine, for example? Because I'll be honest, I haven't heard of glucoraphanine until you just mentioned it now for radishes.
So, one of the things is what gets researched is what gets can turn into profit.
Sure.
So there's not a lot of independent research. And as you know, people were trying to patent sulforaphane.
Yeah, I know.
So there was a whole, debate about that. I think what happens is the research is coming generally someone independent, has the resources, they have a lab, they're getting small funding to go down that path.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was geared towards finding a solution for specific problems. So when Dr. Jed Fahey and Paul Talley 32 years ago started researching broccoli, who would know that Jed Fahey is still obsessed with broccoli 32 years later.
Yeah.
And, when he started researching, he did not he had a master's degree, but he was at Johns Hopkins, and they don't, they don't take you seriously. So, he didn't get his PhD until he was 50.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because he was down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And in order to publish the papers, so now he's in his 70s and he's still at it every day, but we're learning.
That's
and
incredible.
We collaborated on our first paper that we published 2 years ago. And now, and I have full disclosure, I have no academic background, none whatsoever. I know how to read.
Sure.
and I'm obsessive. But like when I wrote the Sprout book, you know, I contacted Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Joel Kahn, Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Josh Axe, and some of these medical professionals, medical doctors in practice were plant-based. Some were functional medicine like Mark Hyman. And Dr. Josh Axe was keto. And the thing that they had in common was they all loved sprouts.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. And through their access to them and their information and their willingness to support the book really helped drive, you know, the potential. So for me, my role is to ask questions and then get the scientific evidence, which is why, you know, I was just here. We both saw Simon Hill, right? And so he, like, literally, you know, he was well into nutrition, but when we met 5 or 6 years ago, he didn't know a lot about sprouts, you know, and now he's growing sprouts, he's eating sprouts, he's sprouts obsessed. So I think what happens is that mainstream media was never going to talk about sprouts. But through these distributed channels and through podcasts, like I had the benefit of going on the Rich Roll podcast twice, right? And I went on others, and I went on Simon's 3 times, and Darren O'Lean's, and all of a sudden, this is my second appearance on The Doctor's Kitchen.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now, we're putting sprouts out into the zeitgeist in a very distributed way. Sometimes, like you have a big podcast. I will virtually do a podcast with 1 download. Some of these people are impressively sending me their credentials, and they go, "We're in the top 10 podcasts in the world." And so I go on to ChatGPT. What does it mean? What kind of downloads was the top 10 podcast? And they go 50 to 100 per episode.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when I practiced martial arts, my sensei, sometimes, you know, I would be the only student in the class. And here I had a great teacher from Japan. I would feel bad. Like he was going to teach this whole class for 1 student. And he looked me in the eye and he goes, "If no students were here, I'm still teaching the class." Like that's his discipline.
Yeah.
So for me, like I'll talk to myself, I'll talk to 1 person, you know, and whomever. When Tony Robbins invited me to give a keynote at Unleash the Power Within, 25,000 people, you know, live in one of the largest auditoriums in the country at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. Like that was wow, like all these people, and they're listening and attentive about sprouts. So I know that we are on to something. Like the time is right for sprouting.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like it's a confluence of a number of different things. There's a genuine interest in longevity and health. There's a metabolic disease crisis. There is a real growing problem with affordability of food. And what you're presenting here is a unique opportunity to utilize something that has not only research behind it, but also tradition and heritage and, you know, ancient practice and beauty. And the way you describe sort of the journey of how a seed becomes metamorphized and goes through these different stages, you know, is something that is quite easy to overlook. And I think when you talk about it in that respect, even I think about how I'm missing this element in my diet that could be providing some pretty profound benefits. The study that you did with Jed a couple of years ago, I think we spoke before you did the studies. Can you speak to that? What were you looking at?
What we were looking at in that particular study was sprouts had been demonized over food safety.
Oh
issues.
yeah, because there's breakouts and stuff.
There were some outbreaks about sprouts. So before I wanted to go all in, I thought it was imperative for me to get the data.
Okay.
So we worked with the data scientist, Jack Smiloff from the Netherlands and Jed from Johns Hopkins. And we exhaustively studied 25 years of foodborne illness, illness, hospitalizations, outbreaks, and deaths. And and this is, would have been easier with AI and ChatGPT.
Sure.
We did this before then.
Before that, yeah.
But when we studied the data, we realized, and if you were to rationalize the data, like in cases per million, and I don't have, I'm not in front of my computer now with it, but it was something that the number of cases for foodborne illness for sprouts were like 11 per million servings. But lettuce was 20 per million, and chicken was like 80 per million. And so the probability of a serving for sprouts of being sick was de minimis. And then when you looked at what happened since then, the major instances in the outbreaks were predominantly commercial grown growers selling to fast food that had terrible hygiene, and sanitation practices. They weren't wearing gloves, they weren't storing properly, they had cross-contamination. And so since then, with the knowledge now and the level of microbial testing and DNA sequencing of the various strains, turns out there's been no deaths from sprouts in years, just none. And sprouts at home, virtually no instances of foodborne illness at home. And then the level of now with the seeds, and every seed that we sell, every bag of seeds we sell at the sprouting company is going through pathogen testing. So we're taking a batch of the seeds, they grow out the crop, they take the wastewater, they run it through all sorts of testing looking for Listeria, E. coli, Salmonella, various pathogens that could be deadly. And so the essence of it was sprouts are really safe, and homegrown sprouts are even safer. So that was the paper that we wrote, peer-reviewed paper, easy to find, type Doug Evans, Jed Fay, you can find the paper. And you
We'll
can put it in the show notes. And, the next paper, that we're working on, and we have an IRB approved, is to studying a cohort group of people, 100 people, of the impact of sprouts on their diet, on their lifestyle, from weight loss to reversing of symptoms of chronic illness to the diabetes and the like. So that's one that we're working on. Then another one, very similar to what Walter Longo is doing with the fasting mimicking diet. Turns out sprouts are high fiber, low fat, low calorie. But the fiber can produce GLP-1 secretions. So the more sprouts that someone would eat, the more satiated they would feel, the more they'd be flooding their body with phytonutrients and micronutrients and antioxidants, and they're getting water. So sprouts are mostly water. So you're getting all of these, benefits in there. So I'm collaborating with Dr. Alan Goldhammer at True North Health, who wrote the book Fasting Can Save Your Life, on being able to take part of their compound, 25, 30 beds, and have people go there that have chronic illness. And they would be growing their sprouts, eating their sprouts under very tight medical supervision. Because what happens is if you are severely chronically ill on many medications and overweight, obese, and you go on a sprout diet, you could kill yourself. Do you know how you would kill yourself?
Not having enough?
No. You would be over-medicated. So they need to titrate down the medication.
So these guys are already on insulin or...
they're on insulin, they're on blood thinners, they're on all these various drugs. So you need to titrate them off them.
It's a very important point, because I think a lot of people might find themselves in like a program looking at fasting or just a simple low-calorie diet. Their body responds in a positive way in that they don't need as much insulin, and unfortunately, there are there are consequences of having too much medication. So this is a very important point you're making about how if you are going to make these quite drastic dietary changes, even though it's a very simplistic one of like adding more sprouts, you've got to be really careful if you're already on drugs.
Yeah, if you're on allopathic medicine
Sure.
and pharmacology, you
Mhm.
need to work with your doctor.
Absolutely.
Because like you have up to 100 million Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And if you take and it's mostly type 2 diabetes.
Mm.
And if their fasting blood sugar level is over 125 or 150, they're being administered insulin. And if they reduce the foods that are causing the insulin resistance, then all of a sudden what would typically and historically have spiked their blood sugar levels would not. So then they wouldn't need so
insulin,
that's where the cases of the glucose monitoring and the testing, but it all requires like when someone gets to a certain level of now they're on meds, they're part of this medical system, and the way to get out is they have to have an off ramp out. Like, and there's a whole other issue, and we could have a whole episode just on Ozempic, right? People are going on Ozempic, and there'll be, if they don't have a off ramp plan, they will be on Ozempic for life. And what I would say is, as someone is going on Ozempic, to start incorporating sprouts into the diet so they could start to be getting the nourishment that they need, the proteins that they need, the antioxidants that they need. And then, like, I can ask you, the doctor perspective, are you better off being, morbidly obese or getting gastro surgery or going on Ozempic? Like, what would you recommend if someone is
I would say if
severely
you're
obese?
morbidly obese and you've tried all the other lifestyle and diet interventions and you've been on other drugs that are less as severe as things like Ozempic and GLP-1 agonists in general, then I would say from a pure risk-benefit ratio, Ozempic is a very good option. And up to that point, at least in the UK, we would have gone through quite intensive strategies to try and improve your weight before you get to that point. If the Ozempic, or for whatever reasons, the GLP-1 drugs do not work, or they are unfavorable to you because you have side effects, whatever that might be, then surgery, bariatric surgery, would be another option there. And I think overall, those are for a certain subset of people who cannot tolerate the other interventions. But I fear, and I see this more in the US, I would say, it's probably my bias, that people are jumping, they're sort of skipping over the middle ground stuff and going straight to the drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's going to be problematic because we just don't know enough about the long-term ramifications of these drugs, not from a side effect profile, but from exactly your point, the off-ramping and how one might maintain protein, muscle balance, and nutrient density of their diet, because your appetite is just absolutely smashed. So you don't want to consume anything. So if you're under consuming things like B vitamins and magnesium and vitamins and other micronutrients, then you're putting your body at risk of other issues further down the line.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that's, part of it is that, health has to become important to someone. So you could preach to the choir, right? But if you're preaching to people at a football game, they don't want to hear you, right? So the fortunate thing, which I love about your podcast and the ones, is that there's something for everyone. Someone's
Sure.
interested in rugby, they'll do rugby. Someone's interested in your podcast, they're really earnestly having a desire to make the change.
Yeah.
They're open. So in my abundance, consciousness, like, I am not looking for sprouts for vegans, right? Or sprouts for paleo. I'm looking at sprouts as for everybody and this inclusive approach. But the people who need it most are the chronically ill. Like, they need it the most. But the people who aren't chronically ill are at risk
Yeah.
of becoming chronically ill. And what I find is that most of the people who are doing the sprouting are healthy.
Yeah.
Like they're healthy. And, they're in their brain, they're rationalizing, like you could put broccoli sprouts in your smoothie, right? And you're going to have the most nutritious smoothie. Like I throw the broccoli sprouts into my Beast blender and I'm getting like, wow, like literally almost a level of high.
Yeah.
Like it's a different type of high, and I don't do cannabis, but like when you juice or blend the broccoli sprouts and you're eating this, you're getting a level of like vitality that is indescribable. And so, I don't really look at chronological age or other factors, right? What I look at is like, how do I feel? Like, how do I feel? Am I able to get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, come to LA for a podcast, have another meeting, and then go back to the desert in time for dinner with my 3-year-old for her little pool party, and then be able to work after she goes to sleep till midnight?
Yeah.
Like, am I able to do that and something like that 7 days a week?
That's amazing, man. I mean, I could definitely feel the energy from you every time we connect. Let's talk about what is stopping people from sprouting. So you've alluded to the fact that the people that are currently sprouting right now are already healthy. They're already doing the main things. They're health optimizers. They're probably someone like me. I eat generally a very healthy diet. Even when I'm in America, I'm probably in the healthiest place in America right now. It's very easy to do so. I have lots of fiber, I have tons of plants, I have legumes, I have grains, I have all this kind of stuff in my diet. I make sure I get enough protein. And I'm looking at sprouts as almost like in a health optimizing way. I'm looking to sort of add a cherry on top, a very big cherry, but like, a little bit extra to my diet. For the majority of people, they'll probably think of sprouting as a chore, hard to get hold of. So what are the main barriers that you're up against when you're trying to get, people universally interested in sprouting to the point where they've got a sprouting machine on their countertop?
Yeah, I really think that right now it's such a low barrier. The main thing that we need to do is just educate. Like when people become aware of it, like I just see the growth of the sprouting company is beyond, my comprehension. Like to grow 400% year over year, no big advertising budgets. Like people, when they hear about it, they're curious. And then they do a little research, they talk to someone, and then like they go. And so, what happens is like bottled water, big category, there's a lot of different things. Sprouts are somewhat, people have heard about them, they know about them. I think we've sufficiently and adequately dispelled the irrational beliefs around,
The
the
fears.
fears. And then, one of the other things about the fears is, every day there's an outbreak of something, whether it's meat, chicken, fish, dairy, and the like. But it's not even newsworthy because it's just every day. And since sprouts was just such an anomaly and no one was there to defend them, things could just spiral. So now with data, right, whether it's the large language models or Google, people can actually see and do their own research and find out, oh, this is safe, this is affordable, this is nutritious, and this is easy. So we're just seeing the beginning of a sprouting revolution. Like I'm already just seeing, like, for me, I'm a good-looking guy. I don't look like you, right? But I now have 500,000 followers across social media, and I talk about sprouts. Like I talk about sprouts, and I find something interesting to talk about sprouts every time I post.
Yeah.
So because we're going down, we're learning more information.
Yeah.
Like we're learning more. So I think what happens, like the barrier is really education.
Okay.
We have people coming to me now that are crossing over. I did a project with a woman in New York, Dr. Na Solo, at the she's part of New York Presbyterian Hospital.
Yeah.
And she has a program reaching out to the community. And, she's invited me in for Zooms and the like. And these are predominantly people of color and people of faith. And I would also layer on people that are chronically ill. And people that a group of people would say would never be interested in this diet and lifestyle. And they were so interested and so supportive that they lost the weight, they documented it, they sprouted, like I can show you a slide of like 60 people holding up my book, like they read my book.
That's awesome.
And, I get to preach to the choir.
Yeah.
But they weren't the choir before.
Sure.
So I think we're just like at the very beginning, and I'm seeing that now the more people hear about it and the cross-referencing and, the different things where we did, Jesse Itzler has Running Man coming up in the U.S., open to people from all around the world in September. And it's a running festival. It's kind of a play on Burning Man, but it's a running festival. And they'll have thousands of people from all over the world doing 3 days. And, it's not like you do a normal half marathon, then you go home. So you do this, and it's community, and they make it fun, and they have food, they have entertainment, they have camaraderie. People are camping there, and you can run 1 mile or you can run a 50K ultra. And so we do that there. Last year, I was there, and I handed out 400 servings of sprouts. And I was like an obstacle on the course. Like I'm at the track, and I'm handing out, like with tongs on the track, handing out sprouts to people. And, obviously, there's a level of business, right? Like the goal is to educate. And, sales obviously spiked, but just the exposure, people had never even thought about, eating sprouts during a performance race as opposed to taking a gel pack, with what is that windshield wiper fluid?
Sure,
and,
I want to push you on the education part of it, right? Because I agree. I think when people hear about sprouting, they're going to be interested enough to go out and read your book and start buying sprouts from the supermarket, if not growing their own. And particularly when people are at a very desperate stage, i.e. when they have chronic illness, they're even more motivated to do something about it, which is why they might fall into sprouting, especially if they hear you, talking at New York Presbyterian. But there are going to be a large cohort, and I would say the majority of people, who are still going to find that barrier of, okay, I got these sprouts, I got this machine. Like, we've got Val here, for example. Val's our videographer and in charge of audio production today. She's never done sprouting before. So let's speak to Val. We're not going to get Val on the podcast. Yeah. So I don't want to bring her up I don't want to put her on the spot. But let's speak to someone like Val. Like, she's probably heard us already. She's probably like, yeah, I probably put some sprouts in my diet. Like, how
she's all in. Val is all in. I'm going to let Val sit down and you talk. Val,
you are going to put her on the spot. Okay.
No, come on, Val. This is the first. You got Dr. Rubin.
All right, you sit down for a second. We'll sit down for a second. Come on. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it unscripted. Yeah. So Val, look, you've heard Doug talk about sprouts for the first time. You probably haven't done sprouting before.
No.
So what is genuinely going to block you from starting sprouting yourself? Because you've obviously heard about the benefits. You've already heard about from the most energetic man in LA, let alone in the sprouting community. Mm-hmm. What's stopping you from sprouting?
Well, I mean, I don't know. how good they're gonna taste, I guess. I'm a little curious about that.
Okay, yeah, taste. All right. I'll bring them over to sort of answer these
Sure.
questions in a second, yeah?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I just not really sure what goes into the process of
Okay.
growing my own, but
Okay.
I like
We'll talk
growing my
about
own herbs, and so it is something that I've been interested in before. I
Have
just
you
haven't taken
do you grow your own herbs?
I do actually.
Okay,
They
okay.
don't always survive,
Uh-huh.
but I grow them.
Same here.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I try.
Okay. Okay. So we already got like someone who's motivated to grow herbs, but never done sprouting yourself. So taste is one of them. Process. What else? What else is blocking you? If anything else you can
I
think
think
of.
that's kind of it. Yeah, just I guess the lack of education on the process. But that's
What about cost? Does the cost sound prohibitive? Does it sound expensive?
Yeah, because seeds could be
Okay.
costly actually.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right. We'll grab Dad back on
Okay.
to talk through them. But thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No problem.
All right, Doug. All right. You heard from the lady. Yeah. Let's talk about taste.
So taste, pretty much white rice. Do you like the taste of white rice? Plain, unseasoned.
No, not unseasoned. No, I like it with a little bit of like Japanese seasoning on it. I like the texture of it, but generally I wouldn't eat a bowl of rice on its own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you take rice and you add oil, you add salt, you add flavor, all of a sudden rice becomes same thing. No one eats plain pasta, right? So no one for the most part, no one even eats a burger plain.
Yeah.
Right? They dress it up and they have a whole stack. They got the bun, they got the lettuce, they got the onion, they got the ketchup. So things are part of something else. So they need the appropriate accoutrements and condiments to make it. So when you start to combine creativity in a culinary perspective, right? And you make things delicious, and sprouts just happen to become the carrier. I'm going to do a social video with paid actors because otherwise it's unethical. So I'm just scripting. So and you'll know this first, but I'm going to and I'm actually going to use bean curd sheets. So the Yuba sheets. I'm going to deep fry them.
Okay.
And then going to give them to people, and then they're going to say, "Oh, what is this?" I'm going to say, "It's cardboard." And just to show that, you deep fry anything, people will eat it.
Yeah.
Like they'll just eat it.
Totally, yeah.
So in the case for Val, we have to make it taste good. So if you have a great marinara sauce or a bolognese sauce or a pesto sauce or a miso, like any number of the things, she will eat it up. You take tahini and add some sauerkraut, and you get a fat and a salt, and you smash an avocado in it. Like I guarantee, won't put Val on the spot, but I guarantee we could get 10 people off the street, and they will polish off an entire jar of sprouts if you let me do some magic on the culinary.
Yeah, I agree. I think, if you just grab those sprouts and then try munching them raw, it's not going to taste great. But when you start adding vinaigrettes and fats and natural emulsions, and you can get really, really creative with them. And this is when you were talking about sprout salads, this is literally how I have my sprout salad. My sprout salad is sunflower sprouts, broccoli sprouts, and I have lentil sprouts in there as well. So you're getting different textures and robustness, and the broccoli sprouts are a bit bitter, so you need to create an almost sweeter dressing that isn't too sharp. And tahini and a fat is a very good way of doing that as well. So like adding a little, bit of salt, bit of herbs and spices, throw that all together. Even the salad haters out there, of which there are a few, probably not listening to this podcast, will eat that up. And it's absolutely delicious. And to your point, these are concentrated sources of micronutrients that are super, super healthy for us.
And also, like, people today are eating, protein obsessed, right? And they're having protein smoothies. You can put a protein powder inside of your smoothie, or you could put a handful of sprouted garbanzo beans, has 20 grams of protein.
Yeah.
So you could replace your protein powder, and you as a doctor, are you better off having a protein powder, or are you better off getting your protein from a whole food.
Every person listening to the podcast and every regular listener will be able to answer that.
Okay, so it's a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
So just an easy way to slip the sprouts into the diet is just.
And it's a really good point you make about garbanzo beans are chickpeas in UK speak. The sprouting process, which I talked about in my book, Healthy High Protein, is one way in which you can make those amino acids more available that are found in all plants. And it's just incredible when you look at the studies, looking at the amino acid profiles. There's very similar profiles of the protein subfraction that you find in meat products. So, the leucine, the isoleucine, the methionine, you do find these in plants. They're typically sort of referred to as low in vegan diets. And as long as you're considerate about where you're getting these from, you're going to get them from plants as well.
Yeah. Well, if you mix like a couple of the sprouts together, like the chickpeas with the alfalfa sprouts or the lentils with the broccoli sprouts, you kind of build up.
You're getting that picture.
So I always look at getting enough variety of plants, a la sprouts or others, with enough calories.
Yeah.
And if you get the calories and you get the parts, like, I just signed up. I'm happy to publish my receipts. I just signed up for Function.
Oh, yeah, nice.
I did that. And I just had a coronary CT scan
Oh,
with
yeah.
Clearly AI.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share. You could look at how like crystal clear my arteries are. It's
Good
just
on you, man.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to publish my receipts.
Yeah.
And I don't take 180 supplements. Like I'm doing it very provincially with food.
Yeah.
And I'm getting my EPA from marine phytoplankton. I'm getting my DHA from wakame, and I'm getting my ALA through walnuts, chia, and flax. And I also believe that if you have a very clean diet, you have a very efficient conversion of your ALA into EPA and DHA. And I'll publish my Omega Quant stats as well.
Yeah. That would be really interesting because we're all aiming to get above 8% or between 8% and 12%. I personally take an algae oil myself as well to get the long chain omega-3 fatty acids. Let's bring it back to Val. So taste, I think we've scratched that one off the list, Val. So these are going to taste amazing. Val already grows herbs, which is a good head start. Not everyone grows their own herbs. I grow herbs, but not very well. Let's talk about the process. So let's take two different seeds that may have slightly different growing times and how you would literally do this. So we've got a sprouter in front of us.
Yeah, we have an empty one in the box.
Oh, that's right. We'll just imagine this one is empty for the folks listening.
Yeah. Okay. So you take the jar and the small seeds, the salad mix, the radish, the broccoli, and the alfalfa. It's one scoop.
Okay, so the salad mix has got all those three different seeds in together.
Yeah,
is it?
multiple seeds together. This is just a pure broccoli.
Okay.
That's just organic broccoli.
Okay, yeah.
And
love the branding, by the way. It's very cool.
Thank you. I mean, the goal was just to make it fun and not.
It is fun, man. This is your personality right here. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Fun, not psychedelic.
Yeah. Awesome.
So one scoop of the seeds, you put the seeds into the jar.
Okay.
And you let the jar soak.
Okay.
You let the seeds soak in the jar.
How much
overnight.
water do I put in?
Just enough water to fully
cover
immerse.
them. Oh, okay,
to fully
fine.
immerse the seeds. And you let them soak, and then you rinse them twice a day.
Okay.
5 times, for 5 days.
How do I rinse them? Do I just literally just pour
put
it
more
out?
water in, put more water in, and then you strain it out over the sink.
Okay.
And then you put it in the,
And you just put it back.
stand, and
Okay.
there's a little drip tray here
Okay.
to capture the extra water. So, and
A couple of times a day. So when I wake up in the morning, I'll
And
do
then-
that, and then when I come back from work at night, I'll do it again.
Correct.
Okay.
so just twice a day.
Okay.
And when you're dealing with the legumes, the lentils, the green peas, the mung beans, the chickpeas, those start to germinate in 2.5 to 3 days.
3 days, really?
3 days.
Oh, interesting.
So they're really, very powerful. So from a level of people having multiple jars, doing multiple
Yeah.
sprouting activities, I have my setup can anywhere between 6 to 12 jars, going constantly because we're entertaining, we're feeding, I'm
Yeah.
eating,
Yeah.
and then I even have a separate stash,
Uh-huh.
where I'm sprouting. And the amazing thing is, by the way, people are sprouting in dorm rooms.
Really?
Like, oh my God. Like we have a university as an investor in the company.
Uh-huh.
So like the school is promoting
That's amazing.
sprouting, there.
That's
So
super cool. So these take 5 to 7 days?
Yeah, these take 5 days.
Okay.
You can then
Salads.
harvest them. You throw them in a salad spinner, spin them dry. You
Okay.
can store them in the refrigerator for a few more days.
Gotcha. Okay. And then freezing, can we freeze those, or would you just always harvest them fresh?
The
and use them fresh?
broccoli, the only seeds that I would freeze, by the way, I would freeze dry every one. Like I freeze dry them. I have a harvest right.
I want to talk about freeze drying in a second, actually. So
Yeah,
let's hold,
I love
let's
freeze
pin that.
drying.
Okay.
So I use my harvest right freeze dryer
Uh-huh.
all the time.
Uh-huh.
For freezing,
Mm-hmm.
I take the broccoli sprouts and I stuff them into ice cube slots.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so then they're frozen. So then I can pop them out
Mm.
and then throw them into the blender
Yeah.
when I'm making a smoothie. So as opposed to ice, I'm using the frozen
That's
broccoli.
so smart. That's so smart. Okay, great. All right. So the process is very simple, Val. So we've got 3 days for some of the more robust seeds, and then you've got the broccoli sprouts. Cost, we sort of addressed this a little bit earlier. So this bag here would cost about what,
Yeah,
10?
that's an 8-ounce bag of
Okay.
organic broccoli seeds. It's probably $20 or $25.
Okay. And in terms of like the other seeds, so we mentioned
The salad mix, the lentils, the green peas, those are
Yeah.
like $15 for a small bag.
and can you use any sort of lentil, like a small pea? Like in the UK, we've got split peas, we have green peas, we've got mung, obviously, we have pui, or beluga. Can you spell
I mean,
those?
I haven't used this metaphor yet, but since I'm dealing with a doctor, like if you were going to perform surgery, yeah, you could use a Swiss Army knife. You could use a one-side razor blade, or you could use a sterile scalpel, right? So I think what happens is a lot of the seeds, if they're not like grown, packaged, handled for sprouting,
Okay.
you could get dubious results.
Right. Okay.
So our standards for sprouting are non-GMO, certified organic, tested for pathogens,
Gotcha.
tested for germination rate, handled, and like we have a little, stick on the back where you could see the germ rate and
Yeah.
other, details. So it was a very deliberate part because when I got into this sprouting world,
Okay.
it was like the wild, wild west. I would order seeds, and because I had the resources and I was doing research,
Sure.
I took my broccoli seeds from one of the largest suppliers. I sent them to the lab to test how many micromoles of glucoraphanin they're in. So I sent them from different suppliers. Some had medium, some had low, and then 2 of them had none.
How do you have none?
Well, all the little seeds look the same. You couldn't tell the difference between a radish seed, a broccoli seed, a mustard seed, and the like.
Wow.
And that kind of, so then what happened is it had none. So you're asking the same question I did.
Yeah.
How does it have none? So I sent it to another lab to sequence the DNA. And they came back and they go, well, it's in the brassica family, but it's not broccoli. So it doesn't have any glucoraphanin in.
Wow.
And that had me, go and start like a whole other thing of finding high glucoraphanin broccoli seeds. So these were seeds that were grown and cultivated
Interesting.
for the making supplements.
Mm.
So they had been cultivated for supplements, non-GMO, and these were, I didn't know the math. How do you say that if these have 100 micromoles and some had 0, you can't say like that level. So we took the average and we say that there's 70% more glucoraphanin
Yeah.
in them. But the reality was like it's the wild, wild west. And that's where I said, like, my life was so beautiful. Like before I started the sprouting company, And I only did this because I couldn't get anyone else to do it. I would be
Yeah.
calling up the places and saying, hey, I want, can you test your seeds? Can you do this? Hey, I want a jar, that has, I want a glass jar that doesn't have, that the threads are on the outside so it's straight.
Yeah.
So all the water will drain out. And then, I don't want a plastic filter and I don't want a mesh filter which rusts and collects. So I want to get something like this. And, and people,
It just didn't exist.
No one wanted to do
Oh my
it.
gosh.
And then I wanted a bigger jar, right? I want a bigger
That's
jar.
a massive jar. That is
but it's a bigger jar, but I made these detents that perfectly fit my wife's hands.
Yeah.
'Cause she's got
That's
dainty
so
little
sweet.
hands. Oh, well, no,
That's
it's not
so
sweet.
sweet.
She broke my other jars. And I don't want to clean up glass in the kitchen. So this is really like,
That's so funny.
designed like, for small hands and all hands. So it's just design form follows function. So everything was just level and saying, okay, I'm doing this because if now that I know this information and I don't do the work, then it may sit for another 100 years until someone else moves to the desert, and finds themselves and doesn't want to eat 7-Eleven food and the like.
Yeah.
So
I love that, man. Okay. So look, Val, we've addressed all your questions.
yeah, if
which
it's delicious, Val will eat it.
I imagine like a lot of the listeners would have had the same pushback as well. So tastes great, process is super easy, cost is low. You can make these at home. They are literally fresh, harvested. They're concentrated source of micronutrients. They're sources of fiber. You're going to get a real good mixture of these different micronutrients that you don't typically get in your diet otherwise. Let's go quick fire through some of the things that you do, maybe personally, and what you would advise other people to think about. So how many sprouts do you think would be a good place to start for folks? And which meal time?
Yeah, look, I think that now that I'm a parent, I can, adjust things for everybody. So I'd say start with a single jar. If you're scared of broccoli, start with lentils, right? You're already familiar, sprout lentils, and add them to whatever you're eating. Like whatever you're eating, throw them on the plate. Like if you want to take the broccoli and you want, to, like especially we're in LA, a lot of people are exposed to the wildfires, benzene, asbestos, air pollutants, like proven research.
Yeah, we didn't actually talk about this, did we? The detoxification potential for some of these nutrients.
Yeah, they basically upregulate the NRF2 pathway and cause the detoxification of these air pollutants. So broccoli sprouts. So, if you want to, just stuff them on a sandwich, stuff them in a wrap, add them to your soup, add them to anything, and you can get them into your diet. When you start to, like in Japan, broccoli sprouts are $1 billion business.
Really?
Yeah. You could look at Murakami, Murakami, and maybe you can even show a little clip in there.
Yeah.
They have $1 billion business doing broccoli sprouts. They sell them in 20,000 retail stores across the country.
Wow.
And people there, they want the broccoli sprouts because they want the sulforaphane. They look at it as a longevity food. So they're making sure, like in Japan, that they're getting 2 or 3 ounces of broccoli sprouts every day.
Really?
Right? So they're serving 500,000 servings of broccoli sprouts every day. And Japan is a country smaller than New York City.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? It's like a quarter of the size of LA.
Why are the Japanese always ahead of us with this kind of stuff?
Well,
Longevity and technology.
I think more culture, like America is like this melting pot of people from all over. And then, they just adapt different climates, different heritage, different culture, so where people were living and in the same place, they were able to, try to ward off the outside influences of the processed food. But now, you see Coca-Cola is available in 140 countries around the world, and the Japan, parts of Japan that have not been infiltrated, by Western influence is doing really well.
Yeah.
But even in the main hearts of Hiroshima and Tokyo, like you can practically buy broccoli sprouts in 7-Eleven.
That's amazing. That's incredible. All right. Okay. So that's given me an indication of how much I should be consuming every single day, like, handfuls of broccoli sprouts. And literally, I'm not joking here. I had some broccoli sprouts this morning with the side of my tortillas, and I had some tomatoes, some leftover chickpeas from the night before, and some salsa, like red salsa that we made. And we just threw that together, and I had some broccoli sprouts on the side of that. So if you can just make it as part of any meal.
Yeah, I mean that's it. It just is a matter of like what's important to you. Like if your family's important, longevity is important. For me, it's like, how do I feel? Like I'm so sensitive that if I eat something that is not right, like it's like I want to like just take a sleeping pill, and try to like go to sleep until it burns out of the body. And so I'm very aware of it, and now like I know the price I'll pay. Like I just know the price I pay, so it doesn't even matter. Like I look at the other food, and I go to like eating the way I eat is hard, right? Just hard. But now, like I travel on a plane, I carry a cooler. In my car, I've got a electric cooler, so mini refrigerator in my car, which is why these came so fresh. And everywhere I go, I'm planning for food, and I'm not like obsessive on. Like if I have to, I'll just eat bananas and apples. But if the apple, is totally looks like it's fake, right? It's waxy and it's things, could be a year old. Like I won't touch it. Like I'd rather just skip the meal. So it does require planning.
Yeah.
But without shifting the diet, like I can see like my clear vision in 2 years, 5 years, you're going to see sprouts, in restaurants everywhere. I even see restaurants growing their own sprouts in the restaurant.
I think it's going to be it's definitely going to be easier, particularly with the stuff that you got planned for this company that I'm aware of.
Yeah, there's a restaurant, green Michelin star restaurant, Plates, in the UK.
Oh, is it?
In the UK.
All right.
And Kirk, the chef, he sprouts. And he's my friend. Look him up. You should go. Like he'll blow your mind. It's a Michelin star plant-based restaurant.
Amazing.
That serves sprouts.
Wow. Okay, I got to check this place out. It's like a farm retreat thing. Is that?
Yeah. They have two now.
Oh.
They opened up one in the woods.
Wow. You mentioned dehydrating sprouts. Let's talk about
freeze
that.
drying.
Freeze drying. So why don't you tell us the difference between freeze drying, all the different sort of preservation methods, and what you do and why you do that?
So nature has a lot of different preservation methods. So I like fresh.
Sure.
By far, under all circumstances, I like fresh.
Sure.
You can freeze the broccoli sprouts.
Uh-huh.
You could probably freeze the legume ones, but then you'd want to cook them because they just the texture doesn't good. Dehydrating of them is at a relatively low temperature, keeps the enzymes alive, takes a long time to do it, and there's not a lot of body to them, so you dehydrate them. Certain things, if you dehydrate the legumes, they become like rocks, so just not appealing.
Sure.
Freeze drying is this phenomenal process where you take something, you freeze it at 20 degrees below zero, and then it pulls a vacuum, and then you start to warm up the temperature, and the vacuum is so strong that as the temperature is warming and the vacuum's there, it's causing the ice crystals to sublimate into a gas, and then all the moisture is sucked out of it, so you're left with something with zero humidity, zero moisture left in it. And the moisture is what causes the degradation and the like. So freeze drying you can freeze dry your sprouts, put them in a mason jar, preferably over a mylar bag, and vacuum, suck it, and will last for 25 years.
So this doesn't sound like something you can do at home, right? Freeze drying.
In the U.S., we now have home freeze dryers for like under $5,000.
Really? I
Yeah.
had no idea you could get even a domestic one available, because it sounds like it's a commercial process.
Yeah, it was commercial, but now it's being made for the home. A lot of Americans are homesteaders, so those are the big audience. And you can freeze dry anything.
Yeah.
Like my friend just freeze dried guacamole.
Yeah, you can do
And
berries and like
Freeze dry everything. And
Wow.
because I have a 3-year, like we got the freeze dryer because of my 3-year-old.
Oh yeah,
Because we would go to parties and they'd have junk there.
yeah,
So I would, in order to not like offend the various hosts, I'd bring over pounds and bags and everything else and displace the other crap with freeze dries berries and like mango and banana and it's expensive, like you get a little tin of organic berries, but health is more important than anything.
That's amazing. What's you got to tell me the brand of this freeze dryer?
Yeah, it's called
before.
Harvest Right.
Harvest Right. Okay, great. I'm gonna look this up. Harvest
This is not a
Right.
paid endorsement.
No, of course not. No, but the thing is, like, freeze drying for me, because we looked into some of the preservation methods from a budget point of view. We did an episode a little while back where we were looking at frozen and canned and pre-prepared and all that kind of stuff, particularly as people struggle to afford fresh food in the weekly diet. And we, freezing was really good. In terms of the best nutrient preservation, we came across freeze drying as like a method that we should be looking for, particularly for some of these supplement companies that are doing like green powders. A lot of them are just like dried at very high temperatures. You're removing a lot of the nutrients through that process. Those who have actually gone the extra mile and done freeze drying using the method that you just described, that's going to be a lot more nutrient dense, and that's a lot more worth it when it comes to spending your money on these products.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a level, like, we have a lot of things going on in the U.S. around health.
Sure.
Like, to me, with my eyes, like, I can look at a piece of fruit and know whether it's been modified, whether it's been waxed or the like.
Yeah.
I can look at this sprout and know, like, wow, this is, like, my eyes are tuning in, like, this is wow, like, this is medicine, this is nutrients, and the like. As soon as, you put in that box or the bag and it's processed and treated, it's dubious. We don't know what it is. So for me, I'd rather, wait a little bit longer, do a little bit more planning, but invest into foods that are that I know what they are, right? And, like, people do more research on what kind of computer they're going to buy or what kind of car they're going to buy or where they're going to live, and they don't realize, like, they're living in this body. Like, where do you live? I live right here, right? This is the human transport vehicle for Doug. So I got to maintain it, and I have to have my high standards, and I know the consequences. Like, what would happen if you put water in your car, right? Like, it's either going to blow up or just stop, but it's not going to run. So we have to run, and the science has really just been totally there. Like, we know what's good for us, but because of the whatever addictive tendencies, whatever generational trauma we've had, like, the food industry knows exactly how to play us. Like, they know exactly how to combine that fat, sugar, salt, color, texture, like just to totally dominate. So that's where you just be aware. And it's like, you don't have any of that. Like, I would today, like, I swear, if you gave me, a bag of potato chips, and once I had that first chip, I would finish it.
Finish it.
I would finish it. It would be no stop. We'd probably have fist fight over it, right? And I was like, okay, one potato chip is too much. All the potato chips in the world aren't enough.
Yeah. I totally hear you, man. Finally, I think you mentioned your shake earlier with broccoli sprouts in. We've got to find out what's in your shake. What do you put in your shake?
So I put broccoli sprouts, romaine lettuce, And I generally do, my shakes are green.
Yeah.
So I'll put the broccoli sprouts, I'll put some romaine, lettuce for the body, and then I'll put in algae. I'll put in spirulina, chlorella,
Uh-huh.
a marine phytoplankton, and then depending on what's available, like in my house,
Uh-huh.
I like nettle.
Oh,
Like,
yeah?
yeah,
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 Nettle's very good. Yeah, yeah.
I
We get a
like
lot of that in the
I
UK.
like nettle,
Uh-huh.
and if I can I like fresh coconut water. Like I don't like the bottled
Package,
stuff.
sure. Yeah,
So if I can
yeah.
get fresh coconut water, that's very good. Otherwise, I will juice like a cucumber or just throw the whole cucumber
Yeah,
in there,
yeah.
and that's it.
Love it.
Or
Love it.
aloe, if I can get, we grow aloe.
Oh, do
on
you?
my
Oh,
reservation.
nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so aloe is incredible. Throw a whole spear in there.
Yeah, amazing. That's great, man. Dude, Sprouting King, Sprouttacular, Sir Sprout a lot, whatever your name should be. This has been a great, great episode. I love chatting to you. It's been great to meet in person, and I'm on the mission to help you get more people sprouting, man. I think it's epic what you're doing, and I can't wait to see what the next couple of years are like. For
I
you.
mean, you just watch. Like we know where it's going.
Yeah.
Like who gets to write the script? I get to write the script, right? Like it's like you sent the email, and I was in LA on Tuesday. I was like, hey, let's do it on Tuesday. No availability Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking in the reality of like, okay, well, Friday it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So here, like we know, like there's nothing new here. Like we're not trying to promote some crazy, superfood out of the Amazon.
Sure.
These are things that are familiar. There's tested. There's research is there. It just takes some, as Val said, some education, and from what you said, some culinary flavoring. And if we take the education, the flavoring, the affordability, the access,
Yeah.
the equipment to make
Yeah.
it easy, like it's just a perfect constellation of joy.
Amazing. I love that, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you making the
my
time for this,
pleasure.
dude. Honestly, it's been so good. So good.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you loved that episode, you will love the full library of podcasts from the Doctor's Kitchen Library. We talk about everything from inflammation, supplements, and food as medicine. Just like this episode right here. You can click it right now and check it out.